Wallace and welcome to Finextra TV. Today we're at Money 2020 Europe, and kindly joining me now in the press lounge is Tony McLaughlin from Citi, and we're going to be talking about the future of money. Hello Tony, thank you very much for coming in and speaking with us. So one of the big topics of discussion at this year's Money 2020 is how crypto is becoming back in fashion again. As a result, do you think the future of money is tokenized, would you say?
So there are definitely different ways of building a monetary system. The type of monetary system that we live in at the moment is the fiat currency system, and that's built on central bank money as the base layer, commercial bank money and e-money. But there's a different way of doing it. You could have central bank digital currencies, stable coins, public cryptocurrencies like Bitcoin. And these are two very, very different ways of building a kind of monetary system. And the question is, which is going to work better for the needs of economic actors in the 21st century?
All right, fantastic. Well, following on from that quite nicely then, we've seen some fantastic examples of fintech innovation. Do you think there's sort of a global narrative for what we're seeing in the market?
I think you can connect the dots between what's happening in China, India, the development of wallets which are really reaching mass market, but also the development of faster payment systems in many different countries. And so the way I look at it is this: in the 21st century, commerce has become 24/7, real time and interactive. But the banking system isn't. The banking system is built on batch processing, store and forward messaging, and really kind of clockwork end of day systems. And the fintech community is building a bridge between the 20th century banking system and 21st century commerce. So what I see really happening is the revival of the underlying rails, and both the clearing systems and the banks needing to move with e-commerce into the 21st century and becoming 24/7 and 365.
All right, well then what do the governments and regulators need to take into account if they want to move payments into the 21st century, as it were?
So governments have a very positive role to play in terms of setting a vision for how payment systems should operate and how the ecosystem should operate. So a very good example of that is the Reserve Bank of India, who just came out with their new 3-year plan for how the payment system will evolve in India. And of course, there's been tremendous progress in India with the development of Aadhaar as a national identity layer, instant payments, and culminating in UPI. So there's a few things. I think governments should look to the best practices around the world and try to stimulate positive developments in the payment systems. Every government should think about making digital ID the base layer of 21st century money. And every government should look to developments like unified payment interface in India. And I believe actually every country should have a UPI.
Very interesting. But what should the banks do? How do you think they can move with the times as well and transform themselves?
Yeah, the biggest transition that banks have to make is from this world of batch processing and store and forward messaging, this thing about end of day processing and cut-off times, to really being able to process 24/7. So that's the biggest transition. Unfortunately, at the moment, there's a lot of distraction, I think, in the banks. I think banks suffer from fear of missing out. You know, fear of missing out on blockchain, fear of missing out on big data, fear of missing out on machine intelligence. But the critical thing is that banks need to become the financial layer in the digital economy. Because if the banks don't take that role, it will be occupied by either fintech or big tech. So banks really need to transform their back offices, publish retail banking services and wholesale banking services through API, and deliver the financial services that the digital economy really needs.
Mm-hmm. How do you see them sort of partnering then in the future? I mean, do you think they're all going to sort of coexist together in the market in harmony?
Banks, fintechs and big techs are destined to coexist. So this is going to be a very thriving ecosystem. However, it is in some places going to be a winner-takes-all economy. Some of these digital platforms really rule the planet and are very much aggregation points. And there's going to be a tremendous battle, as I think we've seen in some case studies where massive investments are being made in order to secure the financial flows within some of these digital platforms. So there will be a race. It's going to be a race between fintechs, banks and big techs to see who provides that financial layer towards the digital economy. And there's space for lots of different players, space for lots of different innovation. But the governments, by putting in place good rails, can create the framework for enormous innovation by banks, fintechs, and big techs.
We've certainly highlighted sort of their roles in the future, but what do you think is driving the payment space, say, in the next 20 years or so?
So I think what's driving the payment space in the next 20 years is this kind of dissonance between what's technically possible and the types of circuits and the business models that we have in place today. So one very interesting point, I think, is the difference between, the market price for a SEPA direct debit is in the cents. And yet if you ask a taxi driver how much do they pay to collect their revenue, they're paying 3-4% on sales, essentially a tax on sales. So if we put in the right rails, and the way you solve payments, actually, payments resolves down to digital ID plus accounting entries. So if we solve digital ID and put the right rails on top of digital ID, you solve payments. And that's going to be a massive boost for the real economy and also for the digital economy.
Fantastic. Well, Tony, thank you so much for sharing your insights. It's been
It's a pleasure.
very informative. Thank you.
Thank you.